Jacob Monroe, a 35-year-old attorney at a prestigious law firm, had a life that was well-structured, disciplined, respected, and meticulously controlled. But one morning, an email shattered that order. A past event from his college years was suddenly brought back to light, and he was informed that a new investigation was being reopened. That was the moment he realized the past never really stays buried. Years ago, during his final year at university, a mysterious incident involving a student named Emily had cast a shadow over Jacob. There were whispers, but no evidence. A disciplinary review had been opened, but no formal charges were filed. Even so, the incident had quietly shaped his career. Now that file had been reopened, and Jacob was back in the crosshairs. Silence had always been his defense, but now, that silence had turned into an accusation. His assistant, Hannah, noticed the change in his demeanor. The quiet tension on his face signaled a storm approaching. Jacob began by documenting everything. He tried reaching out to the university archives, old witnesses, news clippings, and even Emily's family. But doors remained closed. Instinct told him that someone had orchestrated this reopening for a reason. He found his lead in someone unexpected. Emily's old roommate, coincidentally also named Hannah, who now lived out of town. Through her account, Jacob began piecing together the missing fragments of that night. The more he learned, the more he realized that the incident wasn't just about Emily. Key academic figures and board members had deliberately buried the case. Emily's silence wasn't just trauma, it was pressure. Jacob knew he had to break his silence to uncover the truth. Meanwhile, the media caught wind of the investigation. Journalists began reviving the story. Jacob initially declined interviews. His strategy was silence. But with Hannah's help, they built a media plan that wove together untold narratives. That's when they discovered something game-changing: Emily's personal journal. Her words revealed that she had felt isolated, that she couldn't speak, but hoped someone would one day speak for her. The journal became more than evidence. It became a voice for the silenced. With Jacob's legal skills, it transformed the case into a social reckoning. Before the trial, Jacob was invited to speak at a university panel. There, Hannah read aloud a passage from Emily's journal. The media split in response. Some called it brave, others claimed it was opportunistic. But a new chapter had begun in public consciousness. A specific line from the journal went viral on social media. "I have no voice, but maybe one day someone will speak for me." Jacob's plan grew beyond proving innocence. He wanted to expose a broken system. With Hannah's help, he conducted confidential interviews with old classmates, professors, even a campus security guard. These testimonies formed an alternative case file. Together with Jeremy, a media expert, they restructured the public campaign, focusing on systemic injustice rather than personal tragedy. The shift in narrative forced even Jacob's former critics to speak up. Journalists who had once dismissed the case now criticized their peers. Control was now in Jacob's hands. Then came a formal summons from the university board. They would re-examine the archive, and the disciplinary committee would reconvene. Jacob didn't know if this was a genuine effort or a trap, but he knew this much: he was no longer alone. In the final scene, Jacob stood before the old campus building, Emily's journal in hand, flanked by Hannah and Jeremy. As he stared in silence, one thought crossed his mind. Now it's our turn. When Jacob entered the board meeting, tension thickened the room. Sitting across from him were the same faces that once silenced him. Older now, cautious, defensive. New evidence, witness statements, and passages from Emily's journal lay open before them. A hush filled the room before Jacob spoke. Then, In a calm but resolute tone, he began, "Today I speak not just for myself, but for everyone who was ever silenced." The meeting lasted hours. While the board initially tried to protect themselves, media pressure and the growing hashtag Justice for Emily campaign swayed the outcome. Hannah live-tweeted the developments, and Jeremy organized a rally outside. Students, alumni, and activists stood in support. The board finally agreed to reopen Jacob's case and officially investigate Emily's file. It wasn't an apology, but it was a start. Outside, Jacob's eyes welled with tears. Amid applause, he gripped Hannah's hand and stood shoulder to shoulder with Jeremy. "It took years," he said, "but now we write our story." Weeks later, the university quietly removed several administrators. Old files were reopened. Media hailed Jacob's victory as a symbol of modern justice. But Jacob never let success cloud his purpose. Emily's journal stayed on his desk, reminding him of every unheard voice. Months later, Jacob and Hannah launched a non-profit called Silent Witnesses. Its mission, to gather and document the stories of those who had suffered injustice in silence. At first, only a few submitted their stories, but soon, hundreds followed. Silence turned into a collective outcry. Jacob read every submission, offering legal support and media outreach. Once a man fighting alone, Jacob had become the voice for thousands. His journey wasn't just personal, it was a beacon for others, those silenced in schools, workplaces, and social circles. Jacob had become more than an attorney. He was now a face of social justice. Because sometimes one sentence is enough. I stayed silent. But now it's our turn to speak. In the months that followed, Jacob took Silent Witnesses global. The organization began hosting community forums, collaborating with universities, and establishing a digital archive of testimonies. He spoke before international human rights panels, turning each appearance into a platform for the unheard. Former victims, inspired by Jacob's story, came forward to share their truths, not just in America, but from campuses and companies around the world. At every event, Emily's journal sat beside him on the podium, a reminder of where it all began. Because silence once trapped him, but now it amplified a global movement for truth. And yet Jacob knew the work was far from over. He began lobbying for legislative reform, working with legal scholars to draft the Silent Witness Protection Act, aimed at safeguarding whistleblowers and victims of institutional cover-ups. The act gained bipartisan support and was soon introduced in Congress. News outlets called it the Monroe Bill. With the nonprofit's reach expanding, Jacob and Hannah opened regional chapters in cities across the country, training legal interns, social workers, and trauma counselors. The organization became a blueprint for change, its model replicated by international NGOs. At its 5-year anniversary, Jacob stood at the organization's New York headquarters and said, "We don't erase the past. We light it up so no one walks it alone again." Today, thousands walk through the doors of Silent Witnesses, seeking hope, truth, and justice. And Jacob Monroe is there, still listening, still fighting, still speaking. Because truth, once spoken, never fades. What if it were you? Could you stay silent while your name, your career, your dignity were slowly erased by a lie? Would you fight back, or let the silence define you? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you've faced injustice before, tell your story. Maybe someone else will find strength in your words. Because sometimes, a single sentence can change everything. And remember, silence might be safe, but truth is louder.